Lucas. Right. As you give Lucas time to, set himself up, I'll just give a quick run about the topic in discussion today. And as I said earlier, this important conversation is literally on youth in policy and governance, or rather, just making our voices count. And today, I feel like we are literally discussing more than youth participation. We are discussing the future of democracy, leadership, and even sustainable developments. Young people represent nearly half of the world's population, yet they remain significantly underrepresented, especially in political institutions, public administration, and decision making. Sorry, can you hear me? Am I audible enough?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. As I said earlier, we are facing nearly half of the world's population remaining significantly underrepresented, especially in the political institutions, public administrations, and also decision-making spaces. Whereas you find ultimately across many countries, especially law affecting education and also employment, healthcare, climate, and also just to mention digital transformation, these are often designed without sufficient input from the very generation that will literally experience their long-term consequences. Now, with that said, it raises an important question. Can governance truly be a representative if one of its largest constituency has limited influence over the public decisions? You find like for the youth participation, we have evolved considerably over the last decades. You find that young people are no longer waiting for invitations. For example, they are literally organizing movements and also leading societal enterprises, influencing public opinions. However, the participation alone is just not enough. The real challenge is literally moving from being consulted to having a genuine influence across the world, because several barriers continue to limit meaningful youth engagement. Some of these barriers that we're literally facing as youth, especially in when it comes to making our voices count, we are talking about financial barriers that literally makes the political participation inaccessible. Also, the age-related stereotypes that is usually associated with the leadership only with seniority, and you find that now they have a way of making us seem like the minor in the stereotype age-rated groups. There's also the limited civic education and policy literacy, just a few. And these challenges are not merely just youth issues. You also have governance issue, especially in some of the nations and public institutions. We're talking about inclusive governance, which can lead to stronger institutions and also better policies. There's also the increased mistrust, especially when it comes to public and more resilient democracy. Some of these governance issues are something that is really doable, and you can have some action items for us at least, have the way to avert the entire situation. But now you find that inclusion requires more than just the symbolic appointments. A youth advisory council, especially without the influence, changes very little. For example, Namibia is it has one of the member of parliament who is a youth representative. There's also some young representatives who are literally, who have decision-making authority that changes very little, especially in regards to their proximity. True participation literally means that young people may help share agendas, influence also the budgets. They also contribute to legislation and also evaluate the policy implementation within sphere of influence. So instead of us, focusing on, or rather, I'll just request that we literally consider the most important points, of rather just for us to make a question, which is how do we redesign these institutions so that the youth participation can become structural rather than temporary. We can also be thinking of ways in which we can prepare young people with the leadership, negotiation, and policy skills that are necessary to participate effectively. Just to echo, I'm not a speaker, but rather I'm just a moderator. Allow me to call out Lucas if he's already settled, so that I can welcome him. Right. Since Lucas is not around, allow me to continue. Just to conclude, I literally encourage most of our panelists just to share not only the experiences but also the pragmatic solutions, the ones that they have maybe as the successful models and commitments that participants can apply within their own institutions and even communities at large. Because I believe that together we can, we can move beyond discussing why youth matter and also focus on how young people can become, partners in shaping public policy and governance. Thank you so much. And with that said, allow us allow me to move to the next session, which is, calling out the panelists in the room. Please indicate by raise of your hand in the call if you're around. Alexander Geneva Tembo, Jekolaya Boye, Ilham Amadi, Luca Fumichela. Thank you so much. Awesome. I see some of them now. Alexander is literally the co-founder and director of training, Manson Institute of Leadership Education in Malawi. Jekolaya is a youth representative from USA. Ilham Amadi is a youth representative from the Netherlands. Luca Fumichela, youth representative from Italy. And I see Moyosorelua Adeyemi, apologies if I mispronounce your name, who is the founder and lead strategist in Nigeria. Oluwasindra Opaleye, who is the founder and editor-in-chief, Lavender Liberty in Nigeria. Dr. Emmanuel Stephen Kamara, who is the CEO and founder of Blessed Foundation in Rwanda. Thank you once again, and apologies if I mispronounce your name. Now, moving swiftly, allow me to, give an update and ask some questions. This one goes to the panelists that have read the names. Beyond the youth parliaments and advisory councils, what does structural inclusion of young people, especially in policy making and governance, actually look like, and which countries or institutions are modeling it most effectively? Again, beyond youth parliaments and advisory councils, what does genuine structural inclusion of young people in policy and governance actually look like? Any panelists would like to take it away? Please feel free.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jacolia, and I am speaking from Washington, D.C., United States. Thank you for the question. And for me, I think that structural inclusion basically means that we're moving beyond consultation and towards participation. Like everyone had said previously, everything is moving really fast, AI, a whole lot, right? And then the youth are also really fighting for a place or a seat at the table. I think what I have been looking at lately and what I have been advocating for lately is not to just be included in the results of whatever that's being fought for, but to be in participation of whatever decision that affects us, because we are the future now. And so we need to be a part of the process and be a part of the results. That way, when whatever batons, like whatever is handed over to us, we can do the job well and then run with it so we can also be successful. I feel like too often, like young people are invited into the room after like priorities have been made, budgets have been allocated, and decisions have already been made. Genuinely, inclusion to me means that just involving us in the agenda setting stage and not just like the feedback stage, So making sure that we're like a part of it through and through from the beginning to the end. It also means that creating pathways for young people to serve on boards, advisory committees, bringing them on internships, or probably picking about 5 or 10 young people, have them shadow people who are already in positions that you would want young people to be a part of. It also looks like encouraging people globally. Countries like Finland and New Zealand have invested significantly in youth participation. Australia is beginning to do the same thing. And we're beginning to see the good effects of this. And I believe that this is connecting young people directly to policy making processes. Institutions such as the World Bank Group Youth Summit, which I was at a few weeks ago, has also started that. And other various UN youth structures are also creating spaces where young people are not simply beneficiaries of policy discussions, but also contribute to them. So ultimately, I believe that the goal should be for youth to participate and to become ordinary rather than exceptional, and not just partial like initiative or annual consultation, but a permanent feature of how institutions like make their decisions. And so that's my take on that.
I want to just echo with what has been saying.
All right.
What you said is very apt and very relevant to today's times, because a lot of the people consider youth involvement as something that they have to obligated do, something that they have to do just to appear inclusive. But we have moved and progressed far beyond that thought. The thought and the mindset shift is to now understand that young people are not the future of an economy, society, or global aspects. Young people are the present. And the moment we take that into consideration, and the moment we think like that, changes automatically a lot of things. Inclusivity begins at the roots of discussion, at the roots of legacy, at the roots of change. So young people being involved in decisions, structures, in policies that impact young people the most is far more important than decision makers and policy makers taking the guns, taking the ropes, deciding, doing what they have to. And then, like you said, maybe like inviting a focus group, or maybe just, collecting a few young people and getting them to just give some feedback. That is very abrupt, and that is very not very effective. So I would just like to echo with what Jacoila said. And I just want to also add that young people now are way more aware, way more involved, and way more educated than what the situation was like in the past. Because of social media and globalization, education is now at our fingertips. So trust me when I say this, when a young person says they know what they're doing, they do know what they're doing. And I think now is the time to sort of make that inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacolaya and Arifa, for that insightful contribution. I see Saleh Abdullahi's hands still stretched. You can go ahead, Saleh. Saleh? All right, as we give Sally time to, just confirm if he's here with us. My other question to the panelists: how do we equip young people with the political literacy and also the negotiation skills that are needed to navigate governance systems that were not designed with them in mind? Let me ask again, how do we equip young people with the political literacy and negotiation skills and institutional knowledge needed to navigate governance systems that were not designed with them in mind? Any panelist wants to take it away, please feel free.
Okay.
All right. We cannot expect young people to navigate them actually.
a few of the other
how they understand
the
them.
opportunity to share
People, we must first
Wait,
invest
I
into.
think
Sorry, I can't hear you.
But what about political literacy? That should begin actually long before someone considers running for even an office, or maybe even into the code for the governance, because we need governance institutions to govern with young people, not to govern for them. So young people need civic education that explains how institutions function, how policy literacy helps them, and how they can also understand how decisions are made, negotiation skills to build consensus, and as well as leadership grounded in ethics and evidence rather than emotions. Because we want to generate a generation of young people who understand policies. So, for instance, at Mayo, for instance, this philosophy actually shapes our way in such a way that we do not just simply encourage these young people to participate. We prepare them to analyze policy, to engage constructively, and contribute to practical solutions. So if we want better governance tomorrow, we must educate better citizens today. And for us to educate these citizens, it starts with young people. So we need the policy literacy into them. So for me, actually, if we want to equip these young people with political literacy or negotiation skills, constitutional knowledge, we need to actually educate them. So there is need of civic leadership, civic as well as leadership education. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
Thank you so much, Alexander, for that insightful contribution. Dr. Emmanuel, you can go ahead.
okay, thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Dr. Emmanuel Stephen Kamara. I'm the founder and CEO of Bless Foundation, residing in Kigali, Rwanda. So, globally, as we all aware that half of the world population is under 30, and most of our youth, their voices have been unrepresented in policy and governance spaces. And looking at it from a perspective, we have few pillars that can make the voices of our youth to be heard, especially within the policy and the governance spaces. So, number one, looking at shifting from advocacy to policy literacy. That is, prepare yourself to sit at the table. Not just in prepare yourself to sit at the table, but how well are you prepared to remain at the table? That is policy literacy, speaking the language of policy and governance. Many of our young people nowadays, they don't know how policy have been drafted. They don't know how the national budget have been drafted. They don't know any of that. So for you to remain at the seat of the table within policy and government spaces, you must speak the language of policy and governance. That is, you must know how policy have been analyzed, how policy have been is to be implemented, and how policy or the national budget when it comes to the fiscal year, how everything have been implemented. So these are all languages of being in the space of policy and governance if you want to remain at the table. And secondly, you have to embrace the ECO's mentality into leadership. We all know what is an ECO, and we all know what an ECO stands for. An ECO is not just an ordinary bird. It's a bird that flies alone. It's a bird that flies along with their fellow eagle. You will never see eagle flying along with chicken. You will never see eagle flying along with sparrow, neither with pigeon. But eagle rather fly alone, or they fly along with their fellow eagles. That is within the arena of governance. When we talk about the storm refers to bureaucracy. Because looking at the attribute of an eagle uses the storm as an opportunity to be able to dive at the mountaintop and spread its wings that it can be able to get on a high altitude. So coming down within the arena of governance, storm refers to bureaucracy. And storm also refers to resistance of change. So most of our leaders, they see crisis to be as a challenge.
Sorry, Dr. Emmanuel, to interject. You have 2 minutes remaining to lay down your points.
Okay, thank you so much. Most of our leaders, they see crisis to be as a challenge, but an ego or see the storm as an opportunity to get at the mountaintop. That is, we should also embrace the ego's mentality that when crisis arise, we should see the crisis or the challenge as an opportunity that we can get at the front, not to just sit at the back. Because most of the young people, we are afraid of challenges. So to only remain at the seat of government or policy spaces, you must also embrace the eco mentality. And also you must build intergenerational alliances. That is, we have a saying that says your network is a net worth. Try to get connected, try to build up your network with people of your same mindset, with people within the same arena of your spaces when it comes to policy and governance. That's the only way the voices of the youth, we the youth, our voices will be heard, our voices will be counted within the spaces of policy and governance. When we build a network of the same mindset, when we embrace the equal mentality, when we shift from advocacy to policy literacy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel, for that wonderful contribution. Due to time constraints, I think the biggest takeaway home is, to speak the policy language and have the ego mentality. I see hands that are being raised. Allow me to give Emily a chance, please. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily, and I'm from the United States. I'm a university student, but I've worked on a few civic engagement projects, which I think could be useful in answering this question. I do believe that one of the biggest challenges that we face is having young people participate in systems that they were never taught to participate in, and they don't have the necessary skills. And by that, it could be complex language, or it could just be general misinformation. And my approach to how to make civic education more experiential is through using virtual reality. I've created a virtual reality experience that helps first-time voters see the polling place, which is like where do they go to cast their vote, as well as how do they be more civically engaged through helping understand different governments and different governmental systems. And I've seen that young people love to engage with this VR headset because a lot of young people are excited about technology, and mixing new technology with something that's really important for them to learn is a great way to have more people be more civically engaged. I've also used artificial intelligence tools to help to have if there's a complex language that's on a ballot, how do you simplify that so people that might not have that level of educational knowledge can participate and can learn more about what this bill is saying. I've just understood that when people could see the process, especially young people, they can understand it better and have more experience later in their future with being lifelong civic learners. And I believe that that's how we build a generation that is not just only politically aware, but is prepared to engage with their democracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily, for that wonderful input. The key takeaway home is about when people see the process, they can be in a position to engage better. And just a light request, do you mind dropping yours LinkedIn on the chat box? So in case of any other updates, you can reach out to each and every one of you. I see more hands that are being raised, but due to time, allow me to give Can you hear me? Please take it away, Ilham.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I am Ilham from the Netherlands. And if we talk about meaningful youth participation in decision making, it really depends on ensuring that young people have access to clear and accessible information about either public policies in democratic processes. But the question then arises, who will provide them with these informations? Because personally, if I may talk from my own experience in the Netherlands, I graduated last year in international and European law, and these policies, or whether the pathways for me to be able to engage in policymaking, these were not clear for me. I was the person that needed to find out what I needed to do to be engaged within policymaking. I think that's also a step that we need to take as policymakers who are currently either in the parliament or who are working in embassies or other institutions, so that they have an accessible platform for the youth, for them to reach out to in order to participate in this decision making and policy makings. Otherwise, we don't know how to go our ways. We need this within this whole big world full of information. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Ilham, for that thought-provoking contribution. If I could give Claude a chance, please take it away.
Hello, everyone. I'm not audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. So when we talk about, as the previous speakers have said, I think it's really also important that we are able to facilitate spaces for youth. As I'm aware, throughout the London Climate Action Week, it's been an importance that youth have been able to share and also share their suggestions and ideas and expertise when it comes to climate change and also policy. If we're not able to do that because of the silos and the powers of other generations who are not able to acknowledge the importance of what is needing to be prioritized, then we're not able to move forward and ahead with a strategic and productive solution for the next generation. We have a duty to facilitate the importance of an environment that is inherited at the great importance for the next generation. So what I believe is that we need to ensure that these environments are safe and these environments are productive, and also importance that we don't see the same faces, and ensure that youth are able to facilitate tools and digital education and also policy education. That's my contribution. My name's Claude from the UK. I'm pronouns he, him. Thank you.
On this update, Hussein, please take it away. Hussein, please take it away.
Yes. Hi. Sorry. I have a little bit of a cold, so my voice is raspy, but I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Yes. So we've been talking about political literacy, all of that, right? Am I on the right path?
Sorry, I can't hear you quite clearly.
So we've been talking about political literacy, right?
No, we are talking about youth and politics and governance. Yeah, making our voices count.
Sorry, could you please repeat that?
Hello, you can hear me clearly?
Yeah, if you can just
Yes, we are talking about
louder, I cannot hear.
We are talking about youth in policy and governance, and rather making our voices count. That's
Yeah,
the topic of discussion.
Exactly. So my simple thing over here is that how we equip young people in political literacy is that we start early. My ideology is that schools teach us math and Germans of different kinds of subjects that may not be of a lot of use for us in the future. But things like critical thinking skills, communication abilities, political literacy, negotiation capacities and techniques. These things are life skills that we start learning later in life, after life starts. Pick up in a lot of people or not. So first thing is that we need to start early.
Hussein, you're kind of breaking. Kindly confirm if you can hear us, or rather your network is kind of buffering. Please ensure it's safe as we continue. Hello, Hussein, you can hear me? as you give Hussein time to settle in, I'd move on to the next question. And the question reads, what are the most significant structural and cultural barriers that prevent young
Sorry, I
people?
cannot hear you at all.
Hello, you can hear me?
Hello, can you
Hello, Hussein? You're breaking. I think your network is buffering.
Oh dear. Did you hear anything that I said?
Yes, I heard everything that you said. You literally gave a point and you gave a really remarkable contribution, especially when it comes to political literacy and also communication skills. I was jotting them down and I did hear your contribution towards it. I was requesting if, in the interest of time, we could move to the next session.
Yeah. So the simple point was that to teach and to transfer the knowledge and to mentor young people so that they're able to contribute. So participation, like you can't expect young people to participate in engage in governance and decision making without them knowing what it is and how it actually works from the back end. So the idea is that give them the opportunity to first learn and then the opportunity to contribute. So yeah, that was my point. I'm sorry if it come across as clearly.
Thanks so much, Hussein, for that thought-provoking contribution. We do encourage the political literacy and also communication skills that you're trying to point across. If we could move forward in the interest of time, my last question is, what are the most significant structural and cultural barriers that prevent young people, particularly young women, and those from marginalized communities from running for office or taking up formal governance roles? Allow me to shoot this question to Jekolaya Boy. Thank you. Jekolaya, are you on call? Please confirm.
I think she's here, but she's muted if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
Hi, sorry, it's Jacolia.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Could you please repeat the question again?
All right. The question reads, what are the most significant structural and cultural barriers that prevent young people, particularly young women, and those from marginalized communities from running for office or taking up formal governance roles?
Sorry, muted again. I think one of the barriers is that many governance systems were simply not designed with young people in mind, and particularly women and those from marginalized communities. And these structures have been in place for so long, such that the barriers, I believe, require the structural barriers have age requirements, financial barriers for when it comes to running office, limited access to political networks, and then unequal access to also education and opportunities. But I think there are also cultural barriers in many society where young people are still expected to wait until their turn to be able to occupy seats or until they're seen doing some type of work, which it can cause lack of experience, because sometimes there are a lot of people that are really, really working hard, a lot when you look around you. But what is preventing them from being in positions like that is because they don't have the right people around them. There are a lot of people that are doing so many things that they can just to be in positions. Sorry. There are so many people that are working really hard to be in positions that could change the lives of many. But the only thing that's preventing them is that there are no policies and frameworks to actually support and then push them to get to wherever they need to be. So I believe that if we can have more policies, more frameworks, more community initiatives that would push, encourage, and then also give them platforms, I think that we would see like a lot of people, or a lot of young people and a lot of women in positions that are in positions that we want them to be in.
Thank you so much for that insightful address. Anyone from the panelists who wants to echo whatever she's just said, please take it away.
Okay. I also think there's a systemic and judgment issue. I think we still have a way to go when it comes to women, people of disabilities, people of color. I think the systems are very much still outdated. There is also the importance of political will and also inclusion. I think there are things where some people will go for the top to bottom approach than the bottom to top. And this is still a challenge that myself and fellow other individuals will find. And if we have those issues, then of course there is no progression. So it's about addressing those issues and being able to progress for the better of the future and for the next generation. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Claude, for that. Ilham, please take it away. Let's hear what's your thought process.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, in my opinion, in the Netherlands, young women still face a lot of structural and cultural barriers when entering governance or political participation, especially access to political networks such as internships and decision-making spaces is often limited, while early political engagement can really depend on the education, time, and the social capital that are not equally distributed. For example, if you could think of culturally stereotypes, most of them about leadership and politics, most of them are like that it's more for older and experienced people, which can really discourage young women or people of color and disabled people from stepping forward alongside the underrepresentation of women in visible leadership roles. Even though youth councils, student representation, and party youth wings provide important entry points, these barriers still affect how inclusive and accessible governance is for young women in practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amadi, for your insightful contribution. I see Alexander still waving. Please take it away, Alexander. Let's hear what you have to say.
All right, so thank you very much. Many policies were not designed with young people. They were designed for young people. So most of the priorities were not actually put into the interest of young people. So the greatest barrier is not that young people lack potential. It is that many systems still confuse age with competence. Experience really matters, and so does perspective. So as experience is valuable, but experience should not become a gatekeeper that excludes fresh perspectives. Young people face these structural barriers such as age restrictions, financial costs of political participation. For instance, maybe you'd like to learn because there are people who are still more trying to find the economic footing, so they're not maybe really stable. So they tend to find even those financial costs of political participation. Problems such as limited access to networks, problems such as unequal education opportunities. So for young women and marginalized groups, actually, these challenges are more often compounded by the social norms and equal access to resources as well as discrimination. So for our response actually should be not simply to encourage these young people to become more active. It should be more, should focus on redesigning institutions, remove unnecessary barriers, and expand equitable pathways into leadership. Because at the very end of the day, experience matters, but if you don't give experience to these young people by these restrictions, that means they'll never gain experience. And in the very end, talent, because these people put fresh perspectives, which is innovation. So if you're depriving them of that innovation.
Sorry, Alexander, to interject. You have 2 minutes to finish making your point. Please finalize.
All right. Talent is universal, but opportunity is not. So good governance should narrow that gap whereby it restricts these young people so that they can easily participate. So it's about institutionalizing these youth into governance. There should be that framework where these youth, when you're designing these policies, they should be designed with the youth, not just designed for the youth. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was a thought-provoking contribution, Alexander. Thank you so much. Right about now, I'd honestly request you guys to take one last question, which I think it might be, thought-provoking. How can young people hold governments and institutions accountable when formal channels of participations are literally blocked or co-opted or rendered ineffective? With this question, allow me to shoot it to Dr. Emmanuel. Please give us your thought process.
Thank you so much. Can you please read a question?
Sure. How can young people hold governments and institutions accountable when formal channels of participations are blocked or rendered ineffective when it comes to participations?
Okay. Yes, so young people have a very, very important role to play. I can always tell people, John C. Maxwell said, leadership is not just about the title, it's not just about the position, but it's about influencing another person, nothing more, nothing less. And when it also comes to leadership, leadership is not just a title to be carried away, but it is a responsibility to be executed. So we young people, we have the opportunity, we are in a space that we can make a better change, we can make a lasting impact, that our next generation can also be a benefit. We have the advantage to ourselves because looking at half of the world's population is under 30. So the advantage is up to us. But merely speaking, we find most people, they are unrepresented in policy and governance spaces. We can only break that barrier if only we have that confidence within ourselves, we believe within ourselves, and we take the matter of leadership that we can be able to influence another person positively so that we, the youth, our voices can be counted within the policy and governance arena. If we just sit alone without doing anything, with just to be dependent, we'll not find ourselves within that space. But if we can take the mantle of leadership, take the mantle of responsibility, take a mantle of effective tools that will serve as a mechanism that will help us push us and serve as a platform of opportunity, will make a lasting impact within the society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel, for that wonderful contribution and address. Right about now, allow us to move to the Q&A sessions, and I'll request rather the audience to literally send or rather direct their questions to the chat box, and I'll be in a position to read out loud. Meanwhile, anyone with who feels or rather has the urgency to at least update us on their further points that they wanted to make earlier and they never got the initial chance, please, you can go ahead. May the questions start dropping. Inviting anyone who has the questions from the participants to at least, render it out in the chat box, and I'll be in a position to read out to our panelists for them to be in a position to answer. As you give our audience time to at least prepare the questions for us, my last question would be, what would our governance system generally designed for, equity look like in regards to youth inclusivity, especially in the governance sector? Please take it away. Amadi, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, in my opinion, I think there should be less of a formal distance, because there is too much of a hierarchy between the youth and the governance. In my opinion, when I would like to approach either the parliament or any other type of institution of governance, they would seem unapproachable to me because of the formality. I think formality is to some extent important, but if you really want to address to the youth nowadays, you should adapt to how we go with the flow and do our things. The formality should be there, but I think that should be less than now it is if you want youth to actively participate within today's governance and decision making. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amadi, for that contribution. I'm moving on to Claude. Please take it away.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we need to look at the enforcement and consideration of the bottom to top approach. I think the relationship between youth and a hierarchy of governance cannot be ignored. The river is increasingly enlarged and becoming bigger, and the more we have our voice acknowledged, the more we're able to ensure that policy is also respected. I think we need to consider human rights more. I think it cannot just be a silo of a word. It needs to be more of an action now. And I also want to say that I think when it comes to the accountability element, we need to look at why we are not meeting the gaps. So there is also an overview that is needing to be considered of why the gaps are not being met, why grassroots is also being dropped to the sideline, and the importance of grassroots and not taking a full gear step forward into AI without looking at plan Bs and contingency plans as well, if we're looking at the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for that provoking contribution. It's a wonderful remark that you've literally addressed. Alexander, if you can hear your voice, kindly take it away.
All right, so the future cannot be designed by one generation on behalf of another. Intergenerational equity means today's decisions intentionally consider those who live with the consequences in the long run. For instance, when they're developing Africa 2063 or Malawi Vision 2063, they were considering those people who have the consequences that once 2063 will reach. So those are the young people. So such a system will involve young people throughout the entire policy cycle, from agenda setting to implementation and evaluation. It will invest in education, digital inclusion, decent work, whether it's climate resilience or long-term prosperity instead of those short-term gains. So most importantly, it will redefine leadership itself. Leadership should not be understood as a generational leading or another one waiting for its turn. It should become a partnership built on shared responsibility, whereby the experience as well as the young people have that shared responsibility. Because if you are making that long-term plan, young people, the role of young people is also for co-ownership. So for them to co-own it, that means there is need of that shared responsibility. The strongest democracies will not be those that choose between experience and youth. There will be those that combine both the experience and the youth, because the experience will provide the wisdom from experience, and then the youth will provide a fresh perspective, which also help in terms of innovation. Thank you very much.
Wow, Alexander, I do appreciate and acknowledge your thought process. Thank you so much for sharing with us. If I could just have a run in the chat boxes. And on my end, I see none. Just to echo on what some of our panelists have mentioned, I think most of the lessons learned is literally that structural barriers will continue to limit youth participations, that financial constraints or even the age-based discrimination particularly, and I'm just not trying to group them, but rather they have to be addressed through deliberate reforms. Another thing that I'm taking away home is the fact that youth engagement extends beyond the elections, whereas the governance includes participating in public communities, leadership, and policy advocacy. My final take home will be accountability strengthens the trust, because we literally need to have an open dialogue, transparency, and accessible channels. To my panelists, please give us one thing that you'd like the audience to go home with, starting with Alexander.
All right, I believe the conversation about youth participation has evolved now. The question is no longer whether these young people have something valuable to contribute. across the globe now, if you've been engaged in these global platforms, they're already building, they're already contributing. Some are building businesses, some are leading communities, solving complex challenges. The real question is whether our institutions are prepared to evolve with them, are institutions prepared to govern with them. So the greatest challenge facing young people today is not the shortage of ideas, it is the shortage of institutional pathways that transform those ideas into public decisions. Because voice without influence eventually becomes frustration. So we need to engage these young people. We need to, institutions need to govern with young people, not to govern for them. So if we are serious about strengthening democracy, we must move beyond creating opportunities for participation and begin institutionalizing youth influence, because the future will not be shaped that speak for young people. It will be shaped by institutions that govern with them. Thank you very much.
Sorry for interjection. Thank you so much, Alexander. Just to echo, in the interest of time, we only have 1 minute to give our final remarks. Dr. Emmanuel, please take us away. Dr. Emmanuel, you can hear me?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
So my call to action for today's session to the young people out there, we should live the truth of accountability and transparency. We should live the truth of accountability and transparency. No matter what the situation, no matter what the outcomes, we should stand for the truth. We should also represent for the truth and also serve as an element of transparency. That will help us, that we will be heard within the policy and governance spaces, because for what you stand for, people believe in you, and people are also, or they also trust in what you stand for. Because whenever you leave the room, there must be something about you that people can refer, be a positive or negative. So as you live it, live with the truth of accountability and transparency in whatever sector of policy and governance. And also to the government sector, I welcome it that our youth be represented within the budget setting, because most of the government don't have a specific budget for the youth, and it has been a serious challenge for the youth to implement whatever plans of action they have, or to reach their full potential, because there's no sound budget that has been allocated for the youth. If the government can take that initiative, that responsibility, have a youth representation within the government setting, is also going to make the voices of the youth count. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel. That was a direct and a conscious call to action. Amadi Ilham, please give us a minute of your call to action. Please take it away.
Thank you very much. I think it's very important for the youth, and I'm also speaking about myself, to even engage, to still be participating in policymaking and decision making, even though there are still barriers. I think we should really keep in mind that the decisions that are now made by the governance, that they affect us, but when it's time for our generation to be part of the governance and decision making procedures, we should keep in mind that we are making decisions for the generation after us. I think that's very important to keep in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amadi. That was a very insightful one. Moving on to Boye. Please give us your call to action and your thought process. Thank you.
Thing that I'd like to, if there's one thing that I'd like everyone to leave with, would be that youth participation should not be treated as a favor or as a special initiative. I think it's should be seen as a good cause and something that's normal and very necessary part of a good governance. And so whenever you get opportunity to do anything that has to do with the youth, that has to do with the betterment of the youth, do not think that you're doing the world a special favor, but it should be something that's just good to do. And I think that would help a lot of us view the contributions that we make to society in a different perspective. And so that's what I would want everyone to go with.
Thank you so much, Boy. Finally, Emily, please give us your call to action to our audience. Take us through.
Yeah.
Of course, I definitely agree with everything that my fellow panelists have said. I do want to echo that it's super important that if you don't see a youth represented in a certain decision-making body or a certain policy-making space, it doesn't mean that you can't be the change to make that happen. If anything, use your resources, use your network, and try your best to put yourself a chair at the table. And having initiative and being persistent is super important, especially for young people in this space. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Emily. We have finally come to the end of our session. I want to thank each and every well-able panelist for taking us through the session, and the organizers of also giving us this wonderful opportunity. I've been your moderator, Jean Gallatone, representing Kenya, and I hope you guys have had a very enjoyable and engaging session. Moving forward, we're preparing ourselves for the next session, that is the session 15. I'll talk about global citizenship, diplomacy, and peace building in a dividend world. Thank you so much. Thank you. And back to the organizers. That is my foundation. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, Jane. Right now, we're going to be moving to interactive section 15. Global citizenship, diplomacy, and peace building in the ordered world. And moderator, also from Kenya, Nella Ndaka. Are you on the call? Nella Ndaka, Vice Chair for Under 30 and Senior Program Officer for the PMNCH and Clinton Health Access Initiative. Are you on the call? Nella Ndaka. Whilst
Hi, so I'm Blessed Michael, the moderator for session 15. I think there's been a mix-up.
Okay, Blessed Michael, you're the moderator.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, over to you.
Okay, so is it okay if I carry on?